May I have your attention for a very important public service announcement? We are taking over the internet, and the United States champion of word wrestling entertainment has returned for another edition of the Pocket Locker podcast. I am your host with the most, all the way from the East Coast. And as always, folks, I am in airplane mode. So good to see y'all. So good to be back at it. Got a little bit of something on my mind to talk to y'all about today. But first, I want to have a little bit of fun. I'm going to just show y'all a couple things that have popped up on my feed recently. So look, the first one, I ain't even going to lie to you. This one is for all my peoples that used to volunteer at the church that have been involved in the worship ministry. You might not understand this. If you ain't never been on the worship team, you might not get this one.
They know I'm coming. I know they gonna be there, and they know I'm gonna do the best job I can possibly do. I know I'm coming. They know I'm coming. I know they gonna be there, and they know I'm gonna do the best job I can possibly do.
It says that one volunteer refuses to use Planning Center. So y'all know Planning Center is like an app and a service. I think it's like you get an app on your phone. There's also a website, and it basically is how you coordinate, like who's volunteering on Sunday. So it's how, or for whatever the service or the program might be. I think you could use it for whatever you want, but we normally used it for, college ministry and the service on Sunday, like knowing who's going to be doing what. And it's so funny, like the first time you start using it, it's so weird. Like you're like, what is this? I don't understand. Like what's going on? It's a little bit disorienting. And they try to like coax you into like getting used to using it. And then when you get used to it, it's like a whole app, and you get like, you expect to go there. You expect to be able to see who's playing. You expect to be able to see the set list. You might get some tracks that you want to download and get working to. And so it ends up being an incredible. You be there like, is the A team this week? Is it the B team? Like who? Oh, we got this weak ass motherfucker on vocals this week. Like, all right, it's totally inside baseball. But all right, here's another one.
You keep my name out your mouth.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
What are
7,
you doing?
8. I'm trying to play hide go seek so I can go find who the you talking to.
You keep my name out your mouth.
Y'all, that's how I feel when the apologists and motherfuckers start talking all that noise on the YouTubes. When the apologists want to make their little content, make their little clips, start running their little mouth. Y'all know I'm talking about the people we dealing with recently, like Jim Bob's ass, gonna start talking shit about me. That's exactly how I feel.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
What are
7,
you doing?
8. I'm trying to play hide go seek so I can go find who the you talking to.
You keep my name out your mouth.
Oh, the beef is real. And all right, y'all on this one, y'all already know what's gonna happen. Just act like you don't know what's gonna happen.
Our greatest
Just
enemy.
pretend you don't know what's
Isn't
gonna
that
happen.
cool? He has taken our greatest enemy, death, and he's and listen, don't be fooled today into thinking you're never going to die. Unless the rapture comes, this might come as a shock to you, but the Bible says it is appointed unto man once to die. You are going to die. Great news for Easter, right?
Thank you, Pastor.
And that brings us a certain element of anxiety. But
Amen.
Although we're going to experience a time our greatest enemy.
Y'all already knew that. Come on, there was only one way that scene could end. There was only one acceptable way for that scene to end, and it's exactly the ending we got. That shit made me want to holler, y'all. That was so good. All right, y'all. Look, it's sometimes, y'all, when I go live and it's really hard to figure out what we're gonna do a show about, and I've got to really struggle to produce this damn thing. But lately, there's actually a bunch of stuff I've been really wanting to stream and share with y'all. And then stuff just keeps popping up. So now we got content in reserves. But we gotta talk about what's been going on with, first and foremost, let's just say the issue that really this is all about is the genocide going on in Gaza, right? Let's just keep it real. Let's just talk about the issue. The issue is the pro-Palestinian initiative, right? Like, that's the people that need to be front and center, the people losing their lives, their loved ones, and their livelihoods in the Middle East. But here stateside, the sort of collective mainstream media eco brain has just exploded, and really in discussion about pro-Palestinian protest going on college campuses. And really just overall, it's a travesty that people are even doing that. Like, it's actually unconscionable to be ignoring a genocide and instead feigning outrage over college students protesting that genocide. Like, that shit just we can't stand for that. Like, that just has to be called out. That's the type of shit, again, we have to really push back on that shit and let people know, like, that's not the environment we're trying to create. Like that is not what we want to reward in our media ecosystem. But beyond that, there's a lot of really pernicious things that are going on as part of this narrative. Oh, there's one I gotta show y'all. I forgot to pull a clip. I'm gonna hang on. It's gonna take me a second to find this, and y'all gonna see how this ties to this nonsense real quick. All right, hold on. I gotta search my history real fast. Let's see. All right, hang on. I'm gonna find it. All right, I'm gonna find it later. But basically, it's a story about the WWE songwriter, the guy who makes some of their entrance musics, and he had this weird altercation with a Uber driver. All right, hang on a sec. I think this is it. Yeah, here we go. Def Rebel. All right, just watch this.
In a video clip posted by Hotspot, member of the group Def Rebel that makes music for WWE currently, Douglas J. Davis was seen accusing an Uber driver of anti-Semitism.
Douglas J. Davis falsely accused an Uber driver of anti-Semitism because his family was too big for the car.
I heard you say under your breath they look Jewish.
What?
What?
4 times Grammy Award winner booked an Uber black car for 4 instead of an SUV for 5 without child seats. And when the driver refused to transport them for safety reasons, the man immediately started playing victim.
I'm being
Please
harassed.
explain. You know what happened to CEO?
You're racially profiling us.
You're saying I racial profile you? You are 5 people, you book a black car,
Go inside.
and you
You're
tell them I racial
threatening me.
profile.
You're
Racial for what?
threatening me.
No, don't
Bro,
say
You're
what?
threatening me.
Huh?
I feel threatened.
What?
You are threatening my children.
Say your children.
You are threatening my
You
children.
said that you're lawyer.
I
Hey,
am.
Stay
You are
far from me.
threatening. You got out of the car. You are the
Stay far-
aggressor. That's how the
I'm
law
closing
works.
the door.
You're the aggressor. You got out and chased me.
I'll make sure that the
You do that. Big shot. Let's see how far
big
that
shot.
gets you.
5 people
Let's see
over
how
black.
far it gets
Let's
you.
be honest.
You're the aggressor.
You're try for what?
You're the aggressor.
Man, please call.
I heard
so
you say,
you.
I heard you say under your breath they look Jewish.
What?
What?
I heard you say.
Oh
I don't
my
wanna
God,
take
you are
Jews.
sick.
I heard you say. I don't
You're
wanna take-
sick. You're sick.
When the driver started to drive away, the man provoked him more.
You are sick. Leave me alone. Sick. You're sick. Sick.
What's wrong with him?
Yeah, serious question. What's wrong? But look, this is all right. Now, look, how does that tie into what's going on? Because that's a lot of what's going on in these campuses. Is there's allegedly like a lot of false accusations of crazy anti-Semitism, and people are just insisting that all these pro-Palestinian protests are anti-Semitic, and it don't really seem like the anti-Semitism they say is happening is really happening. Matter of fact, it seems like Jewish students who are pro-Palestinian and against the genocide seem to be overrepresented within the student demonstrations. Okay, and there's another crazy story I saw where a student claimed that somebody like tried to stab him in the eye as an anti-Semitic attack, and really they ain't even hardly get poked or anything. Like it's just a lot of craziness going on. But look, students are being arrested, faculty are being arrested. Like this is like really become a big story. There's protests all across the country. A lot of campuses are shutting down. They're either shutting down completely or they're going to remote instruction. The university I work at, let's just say it's kind of split over 2 campuses, and it looked like a good chunk, or maybe like the good center of core of the one campus was like shut down, at least I think today and yesterday, maybe tomorrow also. So it's kind of unavoidable if you're, involved in university work or academic life right now. Like, and I've talked to people at like smaller universities from different parts of the country, and they're dealing with protests all over campus. So you'll see some stories on the news. They will primarily focus on like, just some prestigious institutions that get easier press, if you will. But if you really look, the coverage is really showing that, it's something that's happening all over the country. But even those maps that you see of all those universities all over the country, they're usually just showing like major universities and not even most of those, right? So there's a way in which I don't think people even really comprehend the scale of the protest right now. And so it really seems to be affecting all universities, large and small. My dad's on the board at community college. He's got protests on his campus, right? So this is really a big deal. And what is happening is, unfortunately, the attention is being turned to the disruptiveness of the students, and they're not even really seeming to be disruptive. Like I said, they're being arrested. A lot of these universities, I think the universities are being hypocrites. That's really what made me want to stream about, is I feel like the universities are kind of talking out of both sides of their mouth. On one hand, they're saying they support the students' rights for free speech and things like that, but they're having students arrested and, saying, you're not allowed to set up a tent on campus. That's against the university policy. Then you have like Mike Johnson, like the crazy Speaker of the House, like going to Columbia and like calling for the president of the university to be fired for like allowing these type of protests to happen. They're calling for the jobs of like faculty member who support the students. This is a mess. And again, even as most of those students are saying, the attention really shouldn't be talking about these students. We should be talking about what's going on in the Middle East. So look, that's what we're going to be talking about today, and sort of the frustration that is coming along with that. And we're going to be featuring a piece by Second Thought called "What Happens When Evil Wins." So it is time to get into the main event of the evening, or like I like to say on occasions like this, the serious portion of the show.
This episode and others like it are brought to you by the generous support of my patrons on Patreon. Get some cool perks and help support the show by becoming a patron at patreon.com/secondthought. I also recently launched a new channel dedicated to the nuts and bolts of making a living as a creative. If that sounds like something you'd enjoy, you can check it out at the link below. All right, I'm back with the lo-fi setup again. This is one of those topics where I don't want to be a professional presenter. I just want to talk to you as a human being who's been watching the worst images I've seen in my life over the past few months and try to work through some of it. On October 7th, 2023, the Palestinian resistance took the fight to the Israeli occupation and knocked the wind out of them a little bit. For those who somehow aren't aware of the situation in Gaza, the Palestinian people have been subjected to a brutal and genocidal occupation for 3/4 of a century. It's a long story, and if you'd like to hear more of it, we put out a First Thought analysis episode a while back that covers the history of Israel and the beginning of their ethnic cleansing campaign. We also did a deprogram episode with the wonderful people who run decolonizepalestine.com, and another good resource is Ilan Pappé's book, The Ethnic Cleansing of Palestine. Pappé is an Israeli historian, so before you go accusing me of only suggesting pro-Palestine sources, maybe give that one a read. You can find all these things linked in the description. For those who...
All right, y'all. And I'm going to say like this, like I say about a lot of issues, let's exercise a healthy dose of humility that can help us all, and all lead by example, and just admit, like, I'm frustrated by the fact that this is an issue that I don't know as much about as I should. Just the consequence of the current geopolitical landscape, right? But I'm learning a lot more, and I think that's okay, right? And I think, at least for people like me, like, we have to give ourselves permission to just admit that to ourselves and then get on with it, right? Because I think, at least in my mind, for a long time, not feeling up to code, so to speak, on what I know about the issue has made me want to stay out of it. And that becomes an excuse to kind of ignore something, right? When in reality, this is the moment we're in right now. So, like, it's okay. I'm trying to learn a lot more about the issue. I'm sure a lot of y'all are as well, but we don't have to let that cloud our moral judgment. We can see what's going on in the world in front of us. We can look at the facts on the ground. We can seek out good media coverage, and also seek out good critical commentary. We can go about learning more. And then as we're doing that, we can certainly figure out what we need to be on the right side of history as we're doing so. Another thing I wanted to mention, I hope that I think there is a lot of misunderstanding on a lot of people's, just the way people see this, and myself included. Like, I conflated a lot of the issues when I first started thinking about this as well. So I hope the video addresses that. The other thing is, I'm just trying to pay some attention to this because, to be honest, I felt a bit discouraged today. I realized that these protests have been going on, like I said, and it seems like each day it's just more and more universities. And I felt like when it hit the university I work at, it was kind of just treated as like, oh, our university's having this too. Cool. Okay, what are we doing? Oh, we're shutting down these buildings. Okay, what does that mean? And then it just felt like we just went on with our day. And a big part of that maybe the fact that I'm a remote employee or whatever. But it definitely like, you know, just the way it felt like, you know, the emails that went out, the things I read, the messages that were sent, the meetings I had today, it just felt like business as usual. And something didn't feel right about that. And I've been kind of wrestling with this issue for the last few days because I've just been so disappointed with the rhetoric coming out of the universities. And so I just think it's important to say off the top that I'm doing this because I support the students and I support their cause. That's why I titled the stream that. Yeah. So I just want people to know where I'm at with this. Like, I think these students are incredible. I think they're clearly very brave. They've also been very organized. From what I can tell, they're as peaceful can be. They're literally camping out. They've like formed student organizations. They seem to be creating broad, diverse coalitions, getting the support from the community. The protests are like scheduled, you know, like so when people are coming down on people like this, you're going, what are you talking about? And it's funny that it's usually the same people that want to, you know, blow Elon Musk and Donald Trump for being champions of free speech, who all of a sudden want to arrest college students for setting up tents on campus. It's just horrible. And of course, again, and again, taking attention away from the much more important issue.
Who can't be bothered, here's a very short summary of what led up to this point. As anti-Semitism flared up in Europe in the midst of the world wars, we also saw the development of the political Zionist movement, which was basically a push to establish a Jewish ethno-state somewhere in the world. That should have been the first red flag. Ethno-states aren't generally a good thing. You might be surprised to learn that Palestine was not the only option on the list. There were multiple other locations considered, on different continents, and all of those places were already occupied. As the evil of fascism threatened Jewish people in Europe, and to a lesser extent, the rest of the world, political Zionism won a certain amount of perceived legitimacy, especially among the British elite. In 1948, with the violent support of the British military, the State of Israel was founded on stolen Palestinian land. And it's important to note here that stolen land doesn't mean unoccupied space. It's not like the locals were going, "Ooh, you stole my empty patch of dirt." No. The European invaders forcibly seized critical farmland, port cities, stretches of coastline, places that were occupied and served a vital role in Palestinian life. Of course, all of this was perfectly legal according to very official pieces of paper, so the colonists could wave off the atrocities they committed to claim the land. One of these documents, UN Resolution 181, gave the settlers 55% of the land, which is made even more absurd by the fact that the UN had no legal right to do so and did not consult with the Palestinian people before adopting the resolution. Unsurprisingly, they were pissed and war broke out. What followed is today known as the Nakba, or catastrophe. Between 1947 and 1949, some 750,000 Palestinians were expelled from their ancestral home. The Zionists seized 78% of historic Palestine, ethnically cleansed and bulldozed over 500 villages and cities, and killed at least 15,000 Palestinians in the process. Today, settlers who were there at the time laugh about the atrocities they committed on camera.
עומדת כיתה של זה עם ידיים למעלה, אז באותו יום הייתי רואה אותה, הייתי קוצר את כולם, עד כדי כך.
All right, it said if kids stood up that day and raised their hands and saw them that day, I would have killed all of them.
אז באותו יום הייתי רואה אותה, הייתי קוצר את כולם, עד כדי כך.
How many people have you killed this way is the question.
כמה אתה חושב אנשים הרגת ככה?
I didn't count, I wouldn't be able to know. Definitely
יכול לדעת בחיי. היה לי מקלע.
I had 250 bullets in my gun. And I shot from it and killed everyone. I can't count.
Years from now, students will write papers comparing the Holocaust and the Nakba, and the racial animus that drove both genocides. And a lot of liberals currently both sidesing this genocide will nod very seriously and say, we just didn't know how bad it was. Just like the good Germans did back in the 40s. It was bullshit then, and it's bullshit now. A lot of people think that the Nakba ended in 1948. It didn't. That was just the first major escalation of a campaign of complete extermination that continues to this day. When you see the Twitter posts saying things like, there was a ceasefire on October 6th, realize that the people saying those things are either ignorant, in which case you can help them by providing resources, or are actively trying to obfuscate the truth. We know Israel has an army of paid posters to disseminate propaganda and shut down criticism online. Since the day the first European colonists set foot in Palestine, there has been a non-stop stream of crimes committed in the name of the political Zionist project. Palestinian homes are regularly and illegally demolished. Palestinians face arbitrary arrests and humiliating checkpoints just getting to school and back. Entire villages are ethnically cleansed specifically for recently migrated European and American Jews to build new settlements on Palestinian land. Again, these settlements are internationally recognized as illegal by international law, and this point is reiterated at every UN summit to no meaningful change. The Gaza Strip, populated by over 2 million people in an area about the size of Detroit, is entirely cut off from the rest of the world. All entrances in and out of Gaza are controlled by the Israeli military. Imports and exports are heavily restricted, and employment opportunities are essentially non-existent. Nearly all water resources are undrinkable by design, and civilian infrastructure is regularly targeted by Israeli airstrikes. Permits are routinely denied for the building of homes, civilian infrastructure, roads, sewage systems, and schools. Call it what it is, a concentration camp. If you force a population into an enclosed area, you control the food, the water, electricity, fuel, medicine, literally everything that goes in or out. If you put a high-tech fence around it with facial recognition and automated guns, if you routinely kill the people inside to further your goal of an ethno-state, what separates you from the Nazis?
This is, yeah, and this is crazy. Like it. I know it's so difficult for us because it feels like it's so far away, but it's not. It's happening right now, and it's a obvious historical parallel to the Holocaust, and still constantly, almost every day on almost every broadcast by a major news outlet in America, there is an absolute refusal to call this a genocide, to call it an ethnic cleansing. Refusal. You never hear these terms. Instead, you hear war against Hamas, counterterrorism, Israel's right to defend itself, the military action, all these euphemisms. But when the undergrads start protesting, oh, they're quick to call the protesting college students Nazis. They're quick to say that the college students who are opposing this are actually the ones using genocidal language. It's embarrassing. It's gross, embarrassing, humiliating rhetoric, and it's everywhere.
It's hard not to get angry when you're talking about this stuff because it's so incredibly obvious who the bad guys are. And yet Israel dumps massive sums of money into pretending they're the victims. I don't know about you, but I've never seen a victim who can shut off their oppressor's food, water, power, and ability to move freely on a whim. So now I'm going to have to make an assumption, because I'm not going to waste my time trying to win over people who still think Israel is in the right, when they've seen all the same footage that I've seen. Either you're a decent person, or you're not. So the assumption I'm going to make is that if you're still watching this video, you're one of those decent people. We're on the same page. What's happening in Gaza is the most blatant example of genocide in modern history. For the rest of the video, I want to talk about what that means. What does it tell us when a country like Israel can commit these monstrous acts and face zero consequences? when it can be condemned by the vast majority of the world, including institutions like the UN, and get away with it. When we see this on Twitter, and the Western press still says that this is all Palestine's fault.
All right,
it takes 34 seconds of scrolling just to get to the names of children 1 year old. To put the scale of Israel's crimes against children.
Right. So to put this in perspective, what he's showing is it's a video and it's scrolling, and it's sort of fast scrolling, like maybe like the credits at the end of a movie would do, and there's a lot of credits. And it's, you know, it's sort of like starts from youngest to oldest, right? And he's saying it takes 34 seconds of this scrolling before you get to babies that are aged 1. It takes 52 seconds of scrolling until you get to the 2-year-old. It takes 1 minute and 20 until you get to the 3-year-olds, right? Just trying to provide some way to think about the scale and the number of lives that have been lost, especially in this case, of these children. And with that in mind, it says a lot about where we're at. The thing I have to wrestle with when I go to bed tonight, that I think a lot of us have to think about, is what does it say about us when our public discourse, our politics, says that the real issue of the day is college students protesting, rather than the genocide being committed with our money and our weapons in the Middle East? And then the follow-up is, what does it say about us that it's the college students that are doing the protesting, and the college students that are taking the brunt of the consequences of doing the protesting? I mean, it's totally consistent with the sort of awakening of political and social consciousness that comes with hopefully a sort of what we think of as a liberal college education, sort of liberal in the, you know, the educational sense, not the political sense. But what does it say about the rest of us, right? That like, you know, you have people like Bill Maher complaining about pro-Palestinian protesters cutting off traffic because we're going to be late to work. And then you have an audience of people cackle at that. And you have HBO air that. Wait, what does it say? You know what I'm saying? Like, we say college kids. I don't know if you know, like, you know, as a university educator, I literally have to, as I think a professional courtesy, try not to do that, right? It's really important, I think, you know, that I understand that my students are young adults and that I treat them as adults. And so part of that is not referring to them as kids. Do you understand? But if I'm just being honest about the way college students are referred to, you know, in the bigger sort of social sphere beyond campus, you call them college kids because they are adults, but they just became adults. They just moved out the house, maybe, right? A lot of students are commuters, right? And they're still living at home. A lot of them, they're having their first job. They're maybe getting ready to vote in their first election, or they've just voted in their first election. But those of us that are supposed to be the quote unquote adults in the room, we just don't want this fucking genocide to disrupt our day-to-day activities. So we'll sit back around a water cooler like, oh, what a pain in the ass it was dealing with that traffic. What do you think of these stupid ass college kids? Right? And then we're off to the fucking budget meeting. while college students are literally like getting arrested. You know what I'm saying? Like it just doesn't, it's not a good look for us. It really does seem to like something happens to us when we take on, you know, what's supposed to be more serious responsibilities in society, that we don't seem to think that comes with more serious responsibilities in society. It's just it doesn't feel right, yo.
Get to the names of children 1 year old. To put the scale of Israel's crimes against children in perspective, in the final years of the war, when Germany was really ramping up their extermination campaign, the Nazis killed 127 children per day in Auschwitz. Israeli occupation forces are now killing 139 children per day. At time of writing, Israel has killed over 27,000 Palestinians in 4 months. Compare that to the 15,000 killed over a 2-year period during the Nakba. And yet, despite those numbers, despite the massive rallies for Palestine around the world, despite politicians getting shoes thrown at them and trade being disrupted, we still hear nothing from the corporate media. And we can't seem to budge the leaders of the Western world. Why? The easy answer is that Israel serves the interest of the United States. Here's Joe Biden back in the 1980s.
There's no apology to be made. None. It is the best $3 billion investment we make. Were there not an Israel, the United States of America would have to invent an Israel to protect her interest in the region. The United States would have to go out and invent an Israel.
The U.S. and its...
And this is crazy, but y'all, the man is still on that tip. Need I remind you that, you know, we covered the most recent State of the Union. We watched it live. Go back and check out that stream. We had a good time that night. But y'all, Joe Biden said he was a Zionist then in 2024 in the State of the Union. He said he was a Zionist, y'all. I heard it with my own words. Don't gaslight me. Go read the transcript. Like, Jay, I'm sure I ain't take shit out of context. That man looks dead into the camera and said he was a Zionist. That means he wrote the shit in his speech. He had the shit approved. You know, there was 1 or 2 libtards like us on the goddamn writing staff that was like, Joe, you sure you want to say you're a Zionist? Yes, I'm sure I want to say I'm a Zionist. And then he went and he did it, y'all. Again, what part of being president of the United States of America is that? And so we can't even do the thing where we like to say, oh, well, that was Joe decades ago when he was a senator and things are different and he's come around and he doesn't really feel that way. And please don't. Just don't. Because he literally just told us he's a Zionist. So let's just accept that our president is a Zionist, which is important that you do that because, you know, his only contender, the only alternative is literally an even bigger Zionist. So let's just be clear about where the weight of power is in our body politic. It's not good. Again, like I say, and it's even more serious when you go down to the state level and you start dealing with the leaders there that don't even have to pretend that, you know, there's a certain way that if you're a federal politician, if you're an elected official in the federal government, you have to have some appeal to the broader American consciousness, right? But if you're a state senator from the backwoods county of whatever the fuck country, whatever the fuck state, you know, like all bets are off. You know, those people are just out with it. And so, like I said to people, you're going to find Israeli flags in state houses across this country and of people in very, very high places. And you just have to ask, you have to think about that. Cause y'all remember the heat Barack Obama took for that tan suit. Cause something about that tan suit wasn't very patriotic. Something about not having a flag pin on wasn't very patriotic. So tell me how I'm supposed to understand what would have happened if that man flew another nation's flag next to the stars and bars. Would have been a goddamn international incident. But in this country, flying Israeli flag next to an American flag is just standard operating procedure. So we really have to recognize, like, we're doing this, y'all. This is us. We may not be Israeli, but we got the title. We got the colonial tag team championship. Israel can't do shit without making that hot tag and the United States coming off the top rope with the goddamn military arms. Trust me, it is a tag team. We in the same stable and all that shit.
Its vassal states depend on having strategic footholds all over the world. Israel is crucial in that regard, serving as a destabilizing force in the region, a useful intelligence outpost, a hub for Western personnel, and of course, a lucrative trade partner, especially when it comes to weapons of war. But still, when the backlash is this intense, when politicians are being harassed wherever they go, when activists are shutting down weapons plants, blocking ships bound for Israel, when Biden's approval rating is the lowest of any modern president, wouldn't it just be easier to give some concessions? To give Israel a slap on the wrist and make them stop the worst of their atrocities for at least a little while? This is how normal people think. This is not how world leaders, fascists, and oligarchs think. Joe Biden, as mentally unfit as he is for the job, is still the president of the United States. He is the most powerful man in the world. Things like civilian casualties are nothing more than one of many pieces of paper that cross his desk on any given day. People hating him is part of the job. International crises are part of the job. He, like every other president, sees the rest of us as NPCs, little Sims running around his country. We're insignificant. If we have a little red angry face over us, he can pull some levers and distract the majority of people with war over Ukraine or Taiwan, or even just ignore them for a few months. And this isn't to rag on the average person. Most people are busy. We don't have the time to get to the bottom of every geopolitical issue. It's just to say that when you are in a position of power, you have options to make your problems go away. And sometimes you don't even need to do anything at all, and the noisy troublemakers will eventually get bored and move on. What recourse do we have in a situation like that? It's easy to say, we just need to dismantle capitalism and destroy the perverse incentives that enable this genocide. But that's not a realistic solution in the short term. I'm talking specifically about the US here. We don't have anywhere near the level of class consciousness needed to build a revolution. Not in a timely manner, at least. So we find ourselves in a position where it looks like evil has won. Where no matter what we do, Israel is still going to bomb Gaza, and the US is still going to give them the bombs, and the media is still going to say that your eyes are lying to you, and it's actually the Israelis who are the victims. That sounds pretty bleak. And it is. There's no denying that this is a pretty grim timeline.
This is where my icky feeling comes from. It's this perverse hope in the audacity of college students. It's this gross feeling that the rest of us are too complacent or too busy or too in pocket of, whatever corporate interests drive our daily economic considerations. Basically the fact that most of us need our jobs and have, people and things that rely on us keeping our jobs, and we do have to get to work on time. And unfortunately, most of our supervisors are not going to accept, I just didn't feel like working today because genocide, and I get that. It's like I said, it's distressing and it feels wrong to just go about your day as though it's not happening. So I hope they're effective. Like I hope that the college students are disruptive enough or challenging enough that it actually changes something, that it actually motivates those with the political power to actually change course. And it feels desperate. It feels like they're the only people who seem to be doing anything about it. And so, as wrong as it feels to sort of throw them out there on the front lines with regard to the protesting, I don't know what else you can do besides support them and support their cause, right? Like it's there. That's why, and it's a weird place that we're in.
States is a tremendous force for evil in the world. There's a reason it's the most hated country on earth, and there's a reason most Americans aren't aware of that fact. But here's the thing, and this might sound a little flowery at first, but bear with me. Even though evil may seem like it's won, even though the US and Israel may seem impossible to overcome, there will come a day when historians can look back and soberly assess the crimes of these regimes as past projects. The US empire is on the decline. I made a video about that a little while back. It cannot sustain itself the way it has since the post-war years. The United States as we know it today will fade. It may not disappear completely, but its relevance will wane. Israel will go the way of Rhodesia and apartheid South Africa. As long as projects like these are reviled and opposed by the majority of working people, they will eventually succumb to the weight of their own contradictions. And there's a fine line to walk between this is inevitable and this cannot last forever. Assuming something is inevitable is not the correct approach. That leads to complacency. But recognizing that evil cannot stand against the determination of the masses forever, that's inspiring. That leads to people getting involved, joining organizations, actively working to prevent things like what's happening in Gaza. Hope and determination is the right approach, not complacency. And certainly not doomerism. Yes, it's incredibly painful to watch the footage coming out of Palestine. Yes, it's normal to feel overwhelmed or helpless. But all you have to do is search the words Palestine March or Rally, and you'll be reminded that millions and millions of ordinary people just like us are making a difference. We're helping get food.
Yeah. This is it's tough. This is that sort of like liberal optimism thing, Sumami, right? And it feels, I don't know. It's always just felt like bargaining with other people's lives. I don't know if that's the right rhetoric, but that's what I got right now, right? Because people are suffering, people are dying, and that would never be acceptable to people who are privileged. But there seems to be this sort of accepting of tolerating the current conditions, because you got to play the long game, and in the end, the arc of history bends towards justice type of nonsense. And I don't buy that. And again, things get worse. And where like what issues do get actually resolved? Like, we do claw out progress, but again, like in a way, not really. Like, we still live in a society with race-based capitalism and exploitation as like the foundation of the fucking system. We still oppress women. We still oppress LGBTQ people. We still tolerate genocide of ethnic minorities in the Middle East. Like it's just, yeah, like I get it. It's a bit cringe.
Food and medicine to people who need it. We're educating our peers. And most importantly, we are scaring the criminals enabling this genocide, whether they admit it or not. Another thing to consider is that even though there are something like 40% of Americans who still support Israel, that number is dropping. YouGopnik made a fantastic video a few weeks ago about the era of war crime influencers, where he talked about this bizarre need the occupation forces seem to have to broadcast their hideous war crimes to the world. I'm sure you've heard the quote, "Never interrupt your enemy when they're making a mistake." The Israeli apartheid regime is making a mistake by not cracking down on their stormtroopers blasting their war crimes out on TikTok. No one on earth can watch these freaks cackling about blowing up homes and murdering children without at least a little bit of cognitive dissonance. Even the staunchest supporters of Israel are squirming just a little bit.
Doing TikTok
except, of course, the ones paid handsomely not to squirm. Israel has shown the world what it represents. It stands for genocide, apartheid, ethno-nationalism, a fascistic desire to cleanse a land they believe belongs to them, and build pizza places and hotels on the graves of the indigenous population. No matter how hard the colonists try to erase the past by destroying mosques, universities, burial sites, entire villages, they can never convince anyone but themselves that they are indigenous to the land they are so callously destroying. Uprooting trees, salting the earth, poisoning the water. Native populations don't do that to the land they love. So, let them show the world who they are and what they stand for. Every video posted to TikTok, every piece of propaganda debunked. It will all go in the history books when inevitably this genocidal regime is relegated to the dustbin of history. The only way to ensure a bright and peaceful future in the region is to reestablish Palestine as it was before the Zionist project. A multicultural, multi-faith community with roots reaching far back into history. A beautiful past that should be celebrated, not bulldozed and turned into a theme park, not ethnically cleansed and its history rewritten to fit some modern myth. As much as evil will try to win, its own inhumanity will be its destruction.
Look at these.
The world sees Israel
like,
for what
this is crazy. That's just wild. The enthusiasm, the eagerness. This is what I mean when I say I think most of us really do want a new world order. Most of us just watch these things in horror, and these things that have just been so taken for granted. It's just so weird, right? Like part of what I think we have happening, at least in the US, is we deny the ugliness of so much of our history. And part of the reason it's something that people get away with is because we didn't see it. And you see this in the sort of efforts to censor what children can read and all these efforts to take over school boards and anti-DEI, anti-woke, all this stuff. And the idea is really like, if you can take it out of the textbooks or deny people access to the books, then they just get away from it. But this is different now. This is the era of not just technology and cameras, but of social media. And so you have all these things, and that's really where people are getting it, right? Think about it. The mainstream newspapers are not covering this in a way that people find conscionable. The mainstream news media is not covering it in a way people find conscionable. So people are really getting what they feel is the truth, what they feel is the good information, largely on social media, largely by seeing videos and things that are just directly capturing what's happening. And so there's a sort of undeniability that comes with all that. So of course I don't like the sort of the tone, and I definitely feel like it comes with a bit of bravado that's unwarranted, just sort of like, oh, you'll get yours in the end. But I definitely think that the reality of the times that we live in have dramatically changed the way people feel about this issue and are responding. And you see the clash of these two worlds because, for instance, in our country, you see the continued momentum of the protest. The protests continue to grow. They continue to spread. People continue participating in them. They're not going away. People are serious because, again, they're still getting all that information pumped to them. At the same time, you see a lot of people going along with sort of the status quo narrative, and so you see like these two models kind of battling it out. You know, on one side, people are still claiming it's all anti-Semitism and talking about Israel's right to defend itself. Those people seem largely locked into the mainstream media ecosphere. So, you know, I don't want to. There's definitely two different Americas. Like sometimes in the mainstream media, they refer to it as Earth One and Earth Two, but it's quite incredible how much where someone gets their information sort of determines which planet they live on.
But it really is. And one day, we'll remember Israel for what it really was. These days, it's pretty hard to find someone who will admit they supported
yes,
Rhodesia
Gabby.
or apartheid South Africa. But they're still around, pretending like they didn't act just like the supporters of Israel are acting today. So, what happens when evil wins? Evil doesn't win. At least, not forever. And the only thing that determines how long evil is allowed to persist is us. I mentioned at the beginning of the episode,
and that's why you know, so supportive of the college students, is because they're really, by their protest, they're saying that they're tired of just letting it go, that this can't keep happening, and that they are willing to be disruptive in order to change course. But I want to highlight what Gabby said here. I wish Black Americans had more media say so and impactful stance toward these global events. I think it's a huge part of the issue, because it seems so obvious to us that white supremacy is part of this issue, and the colonial sort of stance and posturing of Israel and support for Israel. And it feels like part of what the limit of our mainstream media is that we don't address those things. We don't talk about those things. And so whether you're talking about the coverage on the right or the coverage on the left, they're both sympathetic to the white colonial Christian enterprise, right? When you look at even who has tried to hold Israel accountable, the effort was led by Africa. Internationally, the effort's been led by other countries and ethnic groups that have been the victim of segregation, apartheid, ethnic cleansing, right? So this is where not having representation, not having equity and inclusion in terms of who's even giving us the news, who's reporting the facts, and what perspective we get that information from is killing us right now. And more important, more actually, is killing people in Gaza and getting people arrested here. This is a great point. Yeah, sounds like he's betting on a future that he thinks will be there when we don't even know if that's true. Yeah, that's the thing, and I think that's a, you know, ties back into sort of the last comment. I think for so many people, like we're comfortable enough with the current situation that it's very difficult to motivate us to act the way we need to change things, because it feels like as long as there's a certain level of privilege and comfort surrounding us, then it's like you ride it out and hope for the best and hope that things over there for those people get better eventually. That way you know, you don't have to do too much. You don't have to change too much. You don't have to worry about too much. And yeah, it's a very uncomfortable stance, and it definitely feels like it takes a ton of privilege to bet on history like that, especially when it's the lives of other marginalized people that are the chips. And that sometimes feels like what's going on too, where for most people and a lot of people who feel like this situation is far away from them, you know, they're not necessarily too concerned about what happens either way if their feeling is overall that regardless of what happens, it's not going to impact them. Which is really interesting because again, to take it back to the students, a lot of them are betraying or suspending at least that kind of privilege and taking on the risk of intervening, taking on the risk of direct action, which again, I think is why it's important to support the students and support their cause. Boy, they really defended themselves against those kitchen trucks. Yeah, it's crazy. Yeah. And how do I mean, what do you even say? What do you say? What do you say? This is all documented. This is all documented, them cutting off the aid and stuff like this. And Biden wanted to build another port to help them get aid and all this type of shit. It's crazy. It's crazy what's going on. But look, y'all, that's all I got for today's show. I just kind of wanted to talk about that. I won't extend it or keep y'all here. You know, I just think with everything going on the college campuses, you know, being somebody that works in academia, it's definitely been on my mind. It's definitely affected us in the sense that I don't know anybody that works in a university setting that isn't dealing with protest on their campus. Like I said, major universities, Ivy Leagues, small private universities, community colleges. I mean, this is a real moment we're in. And rather than demonizing these young people, we should be letting them know that we support them, we support their cause, and we should be calling upon the universities to support them. We should join in their call for the universities to divest from the interests that are funding this effort. Something a lot of people don't think about sometimes is that a lot of times your major state university in an American state is the largest and most powerful financial institution in that state. So the university ends up having a lot of power, and getting aligned with the university interest is often very important for politicians, especially at the state level. So if you had universities joining the students in their calls for divestment, joining the students in the calls to end the genocide, joining the students in the calls for sanctions for Israel, it would change things. It would definitely be a different vibe. And I hope that eventually enough of us just get that cowardly feeling, that weak sauce feeling of like, man, are we really gonna let the college students hold it down for us and like we're not gonna do anything about this? And that we start thinking about what can we do? Like I'm thinking like, you know, do the basics, letters to your congressman, you know, figuring out where your coworkers are at. canceling something. Like, you know, like I felt today, like maybe we should have just canceled. We should be canceling meetings or canceling functions. Like, we should just really be sending messages to the people in power that we're not okay with it. There's so little that it feels like we can do sometimes. It feels like we don't have power, we don't have political autonomy. But the little things that we can do, especially if we do them together, can definitely contribute. Let's put it that way. Also, I think we should be continuing to join organizations. We talked about that with sort of opposing capitalism, but joining these organizations is huge. I think supporting these organizations is huge. So another thing I just thought of is you know, finding like the student groups that are organizing these things, maybe in a university in your state, or a university you have an affiliation or some concern with, and donating to those students. Right? There's a lot we can do if we simply spend some time thinking about what we can do. So with that in mind, if you've got other ideas, hit us up in the Discord, hit us up in the comments section. Let me know. Let me know if y'all are interested in this. I know the viewership's kind of up and down when we get into things that are super heavy political. Sometimes people aren't really into it. At the same time, I think these things are really important. But yeah, let me know what y'all think in the comments. Appreciate everybody for tuning in. Of course, I'll be hanging out and Gather. Love all you guys. Really grateful for the support. Great seeing you all in the chat. And like the video, subscribe to the channel, all that good stuff. But look, most important thing, y'all, is we got to show support for Palestine, y'all. We got to just take a moment, recognize we're really living in a genocide. And no matter what our stance was prior to today, this is a situation that is I can't think of anything more important. And I'm gonna say this. Oh, I'm really beginning to sympathize with people who don't want to vote for leadership in this country, even the Democrats. It's hard for me to say that, y'all. It really is. It really is. Because I think Donald Trump is an existential threat. I'm just being honest with you. I really do. I really do. And I think the Republican Party overall is just fucking evil. Like they're just fucking evil. I don't even know. I don't even know what to say. I know I'm not being very sophisticated or nuanced about it, but they fucking suck. Okay, and I don't think it's ethical to vote a Republican for dog catcher. I literally no. Why can't we be friends? Why can't we? Because you're fucking MAGA. Because you're fucking MAGA. Because you're a Republican. That's why we can't be friends. Like straight up, just straight up. Like no. But how do you see this genocide and vote for somebody who calls themselves a Zionist? How do you see what's happening and vote for people who are continuing to send them our money? How do you vote for them when children are dying with American dollars? I don't know, y'all. I really don't know. I don't know. Because I can't say it's okay to vote Republican. You understand what I'm saying? I'm not gonna say that. I'm not gonna tell you that. I'm never gonna tell somebody that. Is it legal? Yeah, it's legal. Is that your right? Yes, you have every right in the world to vote for them fools. Am I ever going to suggest that that's an acceptable thing? You messing with the wrong one. I don't know them people. Do what you want to do. Stay home. Y'all, it's 2024. It's too much going on. I can't tell you to stay home. I can't tell you to stay home. Staying home is not a good idea. Staying home, man, this shit we dealing with in America is live, y'all. Look at the polls. I ain't fucking with you. Look at the polls. There's news coming out now that Donald Trump is 9 points ahead of Joe Biden. I'm not fucking with you, y'all. I'm not fucking with you. They saying Trump is like dead even, neck and neck with Joe Biden. They saying a lot of time he's in the lead, even with 91 felony. His former fucking head of the DOJ just came out and basically said he was the terriblest person ever. Yeah, he basically wants to end democracy. I'm pretty sure he wants to assassinate his opponents. He just bring that up every once in a while. You know, every once in a while he ain't like somebody. He's just like, what would it take for us to get rid of them? But I'm gonna support him anyway, because I have to support y'all. That's what we're really dealing with. So I can't tell you to stay home. But if you tell me you ain't fucking with Biden and them Democrats because of this Israel shit, I get it. I really do get it. So I don't know what we're gonna do. I don't know what we're gonna do. But again, it's like the college students, at some point, you gotta be willing to disrupt your own shit. It's not all about us. It's not always about our own self-interest. So that's a tough choice to make, but it's understandable and maybe even ethical and admirable to put the needs of the people being genocided above our own. At the same time, we need to make sure we don't end up doing something that exacerbates the problem, right? So all I'm saying is, y'all, this is complicated, and we'll continue to discuss it, and hit me up with stuff that y'all want me to think about or school me to. Y'all know I'm trying to get more information about all this. But yeah, this is it. This is the time. This is happening. You know, this is it, and we're all gonna have to consider what we're willing to do to disrupt this and be part of the solution and not part of the problem. And for me, what would I want if I were in Palestine? What would I want if they were dropping bombs in my neighborhood? I would want people to keep a very open mind. I would want people to keep a very open mind, because if it came to saving my life and the life of my people, yeah, I would want people to be willing to do a lot. I would be asking for a lot. Asking for a lot. I would be telling you, send us your money. I know you think your bills is tight, but we need your money more than you need your money. I'd be telling you that. If it was my people on the line, if they were dropping bombs in my town, oh, I'd be saying I need that money way more than you need that money. Oh, you might think you broke. You don't know. You don't know the type of broke that is raiding trucks, and the aid might get to Palestine, but the truck don't, because the people got to get it before it even gets through the gates. I would be telling you, you can't vote for none of these fools. You can't vote for nobody until they promise you that I'm gonna be safe. I would tell you to shut down your whole electoral system until y'all could find leadership that would promise my safety. I would tell you not to even pay how many of us just paid our tax April 15th? I would have told you not to do that shit. I'm just being real with you, dog. If it was me and my people on the line, look, you better ask somebody. Some of y'all are parents. Some of y'all know. Some of y'all know that feeling, right? Of like Derek will tell you, my family's gonna eat. My people are gonna be okay. My family's gonna eat. We're gonna make it out here. We're gonna survive. I'd be asking people for a lot. I would be asking people for a lot. I would be asking people to shut this shit down until we're okay. I'm just being real. That's what I would really be at. I'd be asking for a whole lot, y'all. So let's keep that in mind. All right, y'all. Love y'all. If y'all want to hang out, come kick it and gather. Be good to yourselves. I do want people to think about this. We all need to spend some time thinking about this, but take care of yourselves. Be good to yourselves. Be good to each other. I love y'all. I really appreciate y'all for being here. And